Hello again from my front porch. You know, I've been seeing a lot in the news about a couple of different issues, oddly enough from two different ends of the political spectrum, but both of them have people who are expressing things that lack a great deal of actual credibility. And it fires up the social studies teacher inside of me. You know how this happens now and again. And so this is one of those times. And I want to address both of these issues, both of these current topics, because they both just need addressed, okay? And so the first topic is the whole still ongoing controversy, at least for some, that the last presidential election was not fair. The 2020 election, that there was cheating that took place. Now, I will say that while I don't believe it would change the results, I think the results stand as they are. I do think there are some questions, and we had a record number of absentee voting, of people not going to a polling place and of casting their vote in different ways. And that's good. I mean, it could mean that, a lot more people were engaged. I don't discount that. However, when you have a fundamental shift that dramatic, that large, it ought to be the subject of scrutiny. I mean, it just really should. When you see your election system shifting in a direction it has not previously been, it should be under the microscope. We should be analyzing everything to make sure that the results have the right level of integrity. But it just seems like there are two camps. There's the camp that want to still think Trump won, and so they claim that there was problems when you look at it. And then there's the people who wanted Trump to lose it. They don't necessarily care that Biden won. That was sort of the result. They just didn't like Trump. They didn't want Trump to win, and so they're okay with the results. And so we don't need to question it. Well, you see, neither of those positions is logical, because both are driven by an emotion or a cult of personality. The reality is there is a fundamental change in how that election was done, and it should be monitored. It should be questioned. I've already said before that I believe the way we're doing election stuff is all screwed up, and that the media is way too involved in creating these artificial timelines. We need instant results. We need it. And that just creates this pressure that ought not exist in the election process. We ought to be taking time to make sure it is done right, and it is done fair, and it is done accurate. But again, that's a whole other topic, which again I already did. This that I want to talk about, though, is this belief that Donald Trump was robbed, that the election actually went in his favor, and that there still exists out there the smoking gun evidence that's going to invalidate the election results from 2020 and prove that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did not actually win the election, and that it actually was Donald Trump. And so, with that evidence, it will mean that the election results will be invalidated and Donald Trump will be reinstated into the White House. Some say this fall, some say before the end of this year. Others have said it was already supposed to have happened. Let me cut to the chase here. If it were to be shown that the election results were invalid, if that could be done, and that is the first massive if, okay? If it could be shown the election results were invalid, it would not mean that Donald Trump, that the second place winner or the real winner, depending on how that would turn out, would automatically it would be shifted, and automatically he would win. More than likely, extremely more than likely, what would happen is there would simply be another election. There would be if it was able to be proven without a doubt that the 2020 election was a fraud, that there was significant level of funny business going on, to be able to invalidate those results, to call those dramatically into question, and to clearly illustrate, yes, the election could have or should have gone a different way, then okay, that might cause the mechanisms of government to stand back and go, okay, well, hold on. Yeah, maybe we should do something with this. But you have to keep in mind, presidential elections, when there have been a tie, if there's not a clear winner in the Electoral College, it goes to the House of Representatives. This kind of scenario which we've never had, there's no precedent for this, for an election, a presidential election to be invalidated months after the winner took office. That's never happened in our history. And so this would be new territory. The default approach very likely would be that question of what to do with that election would go to the House of Representatives, which at this point in time is controlled by the Democrats. They hold the majority in the House. I guarantee you they are not going to invalidate the election unless there is this overwhelming evidence that they have to somehow explain to the public why. They're not going to invalidate the evidence. Now, it is possible that in the 2022 midterm elections that the Republicans may retake control of the House, the majority. It's possible. And if that were to happen, they might be more willing to consider that kind of evidence. But to invalidate a presidential election is going to take a lot more than just sound bites and very subjective evidence. And so that being the case, the Republicans would have to have, even if they take ownership of the House in 2022, they would have to have ironclad evidence that funny business happened, that the election results should have been different. And even at that, they are not going to be able to just wave their wand and bring Donald Trump back. Again, I think that the best scenario that would happen, and I say best for those pushing for this, the best scenario for those that would want that is that it would trigger a special election. And another thing that's never happened in our history. Because here's the thing to keep in mind as well. The Constitution does outline a chain of succession. You have the president, the vice president, and then the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So if the election results were invalidated and we were to say, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris didn't really win, it's unclear who really won, it's very possible that right now we would then have President Nancy Pelosi. Because that's what the Constitution says. If we invalidate the president and vice president, say they didn't win and we have to pull them out and we're going to run a special election, at least until that special election happened, we would have President Nancy Pelosi. So, there really, logically speaking, is no scenario that I can possibly envision in which Donald Trump just gets swept back into office because poof, we got this proof that the election was questionable, and so Biden leaves and Trump is back in, and it's just that boom, like that. I don't see that happening at all. So let's just be real about that. Now, if you strongly believe the election was fraudulent, if you really believe Donald Trump won, okay, fine, keep pushing. There are still people who claim that Al Gore won in 2000. Who are still pushing for that narrative as well. There's still people who claim that Hillary Clinton won when Donald Trump was elected. They're still pushing. People who supported a candidate who didn't win, if you really were passionate about it, it's not uncommon for you to not be willing to let that go. Okay, fine. Keep pushing for what you want, but be realistic. Let's be sensible about this. And speaking of being sensible, now the new hot button thing is abortion, because Texas has passed a very restrictive law regarding abortions, and they want. Well, I'm not going to get into what the discussions of the abortion is or what the law is, but suffice to say this: there are those who say that it's triggered the discussion about Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court. Oh, this is the beginning of the end. The Supreme Court is unraveling Roe v. Wade. Abortions it's gonna undermine the legality of abortions, even though abortion has been the law of the land all these decades. Blah blah blah. Stop right there. Abortion has not been the law of the illegal abortion has not been the law of the land. Roe v. Wade was not the law of the land. See, that's actually the problem. If you are a pro-choice person, the problem here is you've hung your hat on a Supreme Court decision. And that's it. 1973, Roe v. Wade, Supreme Court says it is unconstitutional to ban access to abortion. Basically, that's what it was. So they basically said it was illegal to make it illegal. But they did not say that makes it legal. That's the interpretation. That you say, well, what else could it mean? Stick with me. All the Supreme Court said was this law that was put to the test, this law is unconstitutional. What should have happened and what should always happen in that context, based on our balance of powers in the executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial branch as defined in the Constitution, what should have happened is that the legislative branch should have then turned around and said, all right, the Supreme Court says this law that restricted abortion or banned it was unconstitutional. So now we're going to write a new law that codifies it is legal to do this. But see, that never happened. That's why it was never the law of the land. It was a Supreme Court decision, an interpretation of the Constitution. There was no law ever passed. And see, the problem, if you're a pro-choice person, the problem with that is all you need is a Supreme Court somewhere else down the road to reverse their decision, and it goes away. And that's the fear that people have right now. They're worried about the current composure and makeup of the Supreme Court, and they're worried that that means Roe v. Wade could be in danger. And it's possible that it will. It's possible that there could be a significant carving away of that access. But again, it's not because of undermining the law of the land. It's because there never was a law of the land saying that abortion was legal. This is why, one of the many reasons why I do not support legislating from the bench, as the term has been called, where you have a judge that declares something is or is not legal from the bench, and we just pick that up as the law and proceed accordingly. No. It should be that judges interpret, or judges, in the case of the Supreme Court, interprets this is what is happening, this is what we say, and as a result of that, the legislative branch then says, all right, we hear you. We are now either going to pass new laws that change the course here and reflect what the court has said, or we're going to create new laws that are constitutional and do what the court was asked to rule on. So, making the court have to accept, well, now the law does say this is what it is, and it is constitutional. If that can be done, I don't know. But anyway, that's the issue that's going on. There's a lot of struggle, a lot of angst about the Supreme Court, and don't even get me into the court stacking thing. The idea of expanding the court because we don't like the current makeup, that's absolutely stupid. Absolutely. It is as stupid as eliminating the Electoral College because you don't like sometimes who wins the presidential election. These are short-sighted, moronic ideas. I'm sorry to insult you if you believe in those things, but it's like the Senate saying they want to eliminate the filibuster because the minority party is using it too effectively. Yeah, but what happens when you're back to being the minority party and you now have eliminated the filibuster so you can't block things? Think these things through, people. We got to think beyond the current issue of today, the current passion of today. You have to think about the precedent. What is the point of the Constitution? What is the point of law? What is the point of the balance of powers? We've lost so much understanding of those things. We need to get back to understanding that stuff, because otherwise we are rapidly moving into an environment in which the legislative branch has abdicated so much of their authority to a executive branch that is borderline monarchy now, and a judicial branch that is literally legislating from the bench, as right now we are concerned that the law of the land is being undermined when there never was a law. It was an edict from the bench. And just as an FYI, gay rights supporters, gay marriage supporters, you may want to take note of this. Now, there are some places now who have passed the law, who have codified that gay marriage is okay. But for a lot of individuals, a lot of people are just hanging on. The Supreme Court said nationwide, gay marriage cannot be illegal. Okay, fine. What happens if another Supreme Court changes their mind and reverses that decision? Do you really want to hang all your hopes on a group of justices sitting in a bench? See, I don't think that's a very wise idea. That's why it is important to reignite the purpose of the legislative branch and get them to pass those laws. If that had been done after Roe v. Wade, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. So, just something to keep in mind. A couple of little lessons from the social studies teacher inside that has just been shaking his head at both ends of the spectrum as they're arguing and debating over these things. It's okay to have the arguments. It's okay to have the position. It's okay to be passionate about them as well. But use your head and your common sense and be realistic, please. And with that, I'll see y'all next time from my front porch.